So, this is part 4, which may be a good or bad part. Let's cross our fingers for the good part of the Cub Cadet LTX 1046. And this is going to be, why is my Cub Cadet not moving? So, I'm just going to go over what I've done so far, because as you can tell, there's no wheel on it. That usually helps. So, I looked at the belt. The belt is usually the culprit. It still might be, don't get me wrong, but it's usually the culprit. If it gets loose, a slipping belt is going to cause you a whole lot of problems. So if you do have that problem, check your belt. If it's loose, even with the tensioner on, you need a new belt. If it's exceptionally worn as well, even though it's tight, it could also slip. If just the center is touching the inner parts of the pulley, it's not going to effectively have traction enough to pull that pulley forward, so keep that in mind as well. My belt is a tad on the not so good part, but I would assume I would at least have some movement. I have almost none. It moves like 1/4 of an inch. I then went over here. I took off that drain plug right there and tried to figure out if I was just out of oil, because basically a hydrostat transmission is just a big hydraulic pump, and it just, you need fluid. I looked, and I do have 20W50, which is generally what you need. In fact, I looked it up. I think that is what you need for it. So if you are without any oil, filling it up with that will usually help. Check your manual though, but they're usually 1030 or 2050. Almost always they're 2050 though, at least for Cub Cadet. That's not our problem. So then I walked over here and I was really starting to get annoyed. I don't know if you're going to be able to tell, but that's a white rim. This is not a white rim, but there's a keyway right there. Now, if you look over here, I was looking for a keyway. There's no keyway. There's a notch milled out. So, when looking at the other wheel, that wheel has a special hub that has the ability to connect to that. That's how it's supposed to connect to. So, yeah. My theory is the person that had this before switched wheels. So I'm going to try, because I'm trying to keep this on the cheap, so I'm going to try to put a key in there. That way it at least will have some type of tension. It might break. I don't know. That's what we're going to find out. And if it doesn't and it works well, then we're golden. If not, then we'll have to buy a new rim, which is unfortunate. Or ask him if he has it. I don't know. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and get you put away, and we'll just go ahead and see if this works. First things first is we need to find a key that's not too long for this notch, and I think I found one. It's just barely. This to me seems fine. So let's put this wheel on. So there's two different types. There's the type that we have here, which just gains traction by having, I need to do it on the other side so I can actually see what I'm doing. By having these notches cut out that fit into the wheel. Then there's the other type, which is what this wheel is, but they usually have a keyway slotted in there. That doesn't seem right. Did I put this on backwards? Very well might have. I do believe I did. Okay, that looks a lot better, doesn't it? So, it doesn't really want to fit very well. We have, let me look for a different key. This one's a little long, but I can trim it if I need to. It might fit. Pretty snug though. Let's get a little persuasion going on here. Oh, here's my persuasion. It is going in. In fact, if I wanted to, I could keep tapping and it would go in, but I want to cut it so it's the right length. And yes, this is tool abuse, and yes, this is not the right way of doing this. But I already don't want to spend any more money on this tractor. So, there's that. Okay. Well, and the owner doesn't want to spend any more money on said tractor, which, to be honest, I feel like is probably the more important part. You know, when looking at this, I think that this was installed backwards anyway. When I took it off, it was like this, but I think it's supposed to go like that. Someone definitely took this off at one point or another. I probably should have, but the wheel itself was, or the tire was holding pressure, so I don't really see a need to take it off. I mean, I'm not here to just take off stuff for no reason. This is a headphone alert. Wheel sunk down a little bit more. Okay, that feels a whole lot better. So, what it was doing before is it was just spinning on that shaft. Like, just spinning. There's nothing there to keep it from going there at all. And I want to set this down. I'm going to take a look at the other one just to make sure. But, if it's okay, I'm not going to show you. I'll just put up the wheel back on. But if it's bad, we'll take a look at that one next time. But I think I'm going to put this cap back on. It's kind of a pain. I'll do that without you there so I don't accidentally hit you. As we gaze at the table of future projects, we have, this is the oil I was talking about. It's 20W50 motor oil. Now, it seems weird that you'd be using motor oil in a non-motor, but if you look up the manufacturer recommendation, it will say motor oil, and it will say this one. At least for this one, a lot of Cub Cadets, Craftsman's, I think John Deere's also will say motor oil. The only difference is sometimes the viscosity will change. I've seen a couple did say 10W30, but almost always it says 20W50. Now, here's the thing. I've run across where over time, when it gets warm, it will start to lose power. If that's the case, the person that filled the oil before you probably used the wrong viscosity. It could be other things, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of different reasons. These things are like teenagers. There's 1,000 different problems, and trying to figure out which one it is pretty much impossible without prior knowledge of what happened. But if you're having a problem, drain it and look up what it should be, and if it does say 20W50, then you can take a look at it. In fact, if you do take a look at the oil in there and it's very, very thin and very, very light colored, This is kind of like a maple-ish color. Not quite full maple. Like, it's definitely lighter, but probably more like wooden color. Like that dirty wood right there. Dirty, dirty wood. Anyway, so in fact, we could probably even look at it. This is 10W50, or excuse me, 20W50. See how it has that, I don't know, smoky, rich look? Let's look at 10W30. And here is 10W30. See how it's not nearly as rich in color? And it is a little bit lower. I didn't put quite as much, but there's definitely a color difference. Now, that is not to say that age of the oil definitely doesn't play a very high role in its color, but if you look at it and it looks exceptionally light, you know, kind of keep in mind that it very well could be the wrong oil installed. Okay, so we're about to get on, so fingers crossed it works. Now, replay kind of what was happening before. I don't remember if I showed it in my third one. If so, then I'll mention it. I think I did. Don't quote me though. Don't quote me. But basically, you don't really have to see it not moving. Basically, what you're seeing now is what it was doing, except the engine was on and I was on it and the pedals were moving. But this was happening. So you're caught up to speed if you haven't seen it. So something I do want to bring up, if your transmission was low on fluid and you did put more in, that's not going to be the fix of your problem. You have a leak somewhere, that fluid went somewhere, you're going to want to buy the oil, which will probably be leaking, so you're going to have to buy more oil. Look up, I can't talk. Look up how much you need. Secondly, you're going to need to put a seal in there. One of the axles is going to be dirty. I would recommend replacing both, because if one's failing, there's a chance that the second one's going to be failing sometime soon too. So you might as well just replace both and save yourself the hassle of doing this again. And the third thing is, I would leave the bypass on when the first time you try it. You will, it's that little fork in the back that allows you to push it without damaging the transmission. Doing that will allow you to kind of press on the pedals without it moving. You don't want to do it for long, but you want to get the air bubbles out. So, and then after that, turn it off, put the bypass off again, then turn it back on. It should be running and ready to go, assuming that was your problem. Okay, fingers crossed. I charged the battery. I think that's all I did besides that. And yeah, I just charged the battery. I think I filled the tire up yesterday, but before I went home, well, before I went inside. Let's see what happens. Oy. Choke on. Oh, I see. Looks like something needs to be adjusted. I couldn't stop. Okay, well, can't stop. Well, as much of a great song as that is, it's not the good thing for a tractor. So, but we're good to go. This transmission is good, so we don't have to worry about it. I'm gonna look and see why this isn't stopping. There's some type, it looks like the lever for the parking brake is kind of holding it up. So I'm gonna work on that. And then, yeah, that should be ready to go. So if your hydrostat transmission is not running, the only time this particular time would happen is if someone stole your wheel and you had to put a wrong wheel on, or they put the wrong one on themselves. 2, if you had a flat, and that flat, when changing said flat, you ended up taking the wheel off, putting a new tube in, whatever you have to do, and then you put it back on. The key was missing, didn't notice it. This would happen. If that does happen, go wherever you took it off and see if you can find it, and hopefully you do. If not, then most local hardware stores that have like a pretty good selection of fasteners will have a pretty decent collection of keyways. They don't usually cost that much. I think I usually get like an assortment. They're like $1 or something each, so if you ever need one, just buy 2 and keep it for later. You'll thank yourself, your future self, or actually no, you'll be thanking your past self. But yeah, here we are. So I'm just gonna go over it one more time. There's, in my opinion, 5 things that can fix this. 1, your belt. Check to see if it's worn. If it is worn, replace the belt, see if that works. 2, check the oil. Make sure there is oil in there. Like I said, hydraulic pump, a little hard to work if there's nothing to pump. 3, check the tires, like we did, and especially if you had your tire off recently, or last time it was working, the tire was taken off. I have seen it one time when someone took it off about a year prior, but it was sat for like a whole winter, got rusty, and the rust actually kept it on, but then they were mowing and eventually the rust gave away, and then we have this problem. 4, might need a rebuild. That could be a problem. There is a pulley on top of that. Sometimes those pulleys are made of a softer metal, and I've never personally seen it, but I've been told, and I've done research is saying that that is a possibility, that one day that pulley can grind itself away in the center, and then you have a pulley just spinning, not actually transferring the motion to the transmission itself. So check that. But like I said, I haven't seen it. Maybe some people have. Maybe that's all they do. I don't know. But personally, I just haven't seen that in my experience with these things. And then the 5th one, it could just be dead. You know, that's what happens. Those are really the 5 things that I think could happen with these transmissions. So if they're not running, so keep an eye out on that. I would check it in that order and expect that order, because if you tried everything and still isn't working, it's dead. Okay, well, I talked well enough for the end of this. I'm sure you want to continue on. If you're still here, put a thumbs up. Definitely subscribe. I'll catch you in the next video. If you have any questions about this, then let me know. And yeah, thanks for watching. Have a good night.